Hi, Dr. Shahim. It's so nice to have the first podcast with you. But I'm sure
Hi,
everyone
Paria.
knows you as Dr. Shahim, but to us, you're Dr. Sam.
Yeah, or just Samina. Of course, of course. You and I go way back, and it's more than a pleasure and privilege for us to record these, podcasts together, whatever we want to call them. People have been requesting this from us for a while. I think we have something interesting, something unique. A group of women coming together to try and hopefully model the way for our other women, in this generation and for other generations to come. And we're excited to share some of our insights with people.
This is so amazing. As you said, we've been working on this project or platform or our club for almost 2 years now before
Yeah, what's it
we
called, Paria? What's
what,
it
what's the
called? Tell
name?
me about
It's
it.
made for you, Dr. Sam. It's just made for you.
It definitely is made for me. And I wish it was there, 10, 20 years ago. That was
Yeah.
one of the first things I said to you when you said, hey, I think I have a good idea for something that we might do together. It's made for me. It's made for you, the person who's listening as well, because it just covers so many grounds. And it really is an opportunity for us to be able to do some of the things that men throughout history and time have done more intentionally or unconsciously or even without thinking about it. There's always been some kind of boys club, boys networks, alumni, people who come together. They help each other, whether it's formal or informal, giving each other that space and the grace to lift one another up, offer that kind of support, to be able to connect, to be able to collaborate. Uh, and there are some great clubs out there. We're not saying we're the first one, but we really are unique in the sort of skill set that each of our co-founders bring to this dimension and bring to this element. I think our uniqueness lives within our backgrounds and what we bring into the mix.
Exactly. First of all, I'm personally honored to have you as one of the co-founders of our platform, and just by you being with us and giving us your knowledge and opening up the doors for us, even within our own core team as co-founders, this has been phenomenal. And I can speak of behalf of the rest of the teams because we have been speaking about this before as well. Honestly, it's been amazing, and I am honored to have individually each and every one of you to be part of this amazing initiative that we are doing together. And this is just the beginning of it, right?
Yes, of course, absolutely. We're just getting started. Let's not forget, Paria, we are post-pandemic. I mean, we have just come out, barely catching our breath from one of the greatest, most challenging periods of our lives, in this generation, unprecedented in so many ways. So we're just finding our rhythm again, catching our breath again, and not to mention, a whole bunch of other cultural, socio-political challenges that have been happening around the globe. This topic of women, equality and equity, it's top and center in
Exactly.
lots of agendas around the world, including the United Nations, UN Women, looking at the World Health Organization, looking at all these sort of initiatives that are focusing on sustainability goals, looking at 2030 goals and economies and environments around the world, really talking about how important it is because the pandemic set women back. We were
Exactly.
just about getting a little bit closer to closing the gap in gender pay and things to do with pay equity and so on. But when the pandemic hit, women, because they're often carers of the children or the primary carers of the children and or carers of their parents, women were amongst the first people to step out of the workforce to be able to attend to those responsibilities. So unfortunately, that set us back another 50, 60 years. And so more than ever, it's important for us to focus on what we could do to try and reskill, upskill, share knowledge acquisition for them, for our members to sort of develop their knowledge acquisition and skill building, capabilities, competencies, and so on. So that's a whole bunch of things that we want to focus on moving forward.
Yeah, I often get a question of what makes us different from other clubs, or and why did we start with what was the reason behind this? I have said several times that it was because of my own challenges that throughout the journey of my own entrepreneurship, I went through those challenges and it was super, super difficult for me. But I want to also hear a little bit about like you and the reason, like why we all got together and did what we did and where we want to take this.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be totally honest and candid, it was on a very cold winter day in London when you and I were just talking on the phone, and I think Clubhouse had just started or something like that. And I
Literally
suggest,
a week, I think it was started. I remember you're like,
yeah,
what
it
is
was
this?
just a week. What's this Clubhouse? What's going on? Oh, audio, voice, get together, talk. Hey, why don't we talk about some of the things that we're really passionate about? And I remember you sent me the invite for that Clubhouse. It says at the bottom of your
Yes, yes.
profile who invited you. So I accepted that. And then you said, yeah, that's nice. Great. We can do that. But I have another something that
Idea.
I want to talk to you about. Yeah. Lo and behold, I didn't realize. I thought maybe it was a fun trip that we're going to go on, or, one of our other fun adventures that you and I have
Yeah,
been
we still
part
haven't
of,
had a chance to
you
go
know,
to that fun trip after that. No, we have to.
Exactly. Yes, yet we'll get
Yet.
it in there. We'll get it in there. And I thought, oh, where are we going? We're traveling. We're going to do something fun. But it was another adventure and a much longer journey, and a journey that we have been on in silos in many ways, isolated on that journey in many ways. Um, without the support that is often required, without the advocacy, without the sponsorship that really lends itself to that kind of elevated and enablement. And so I too, like you, was often on that journey in a quite isolated and solo manner. And I found
And I
that
have to just say one thing. For me, it was like if you have gone through this, and if like because I know we talked about it so much, but for me it was like when Dr. Samina has gone through this and the obstacles and the challenges that she went through, what about the rest of us, you know?
yeah,
That's why I
really,
was you gave me actually energy, to be honest with you, when I saw what you were going through and how you managed that. I was like, you know what, this is it, we really
yeah.
have to gather.
I think you're right, Paria. With our experience, also, we've seen now that the most resilient, the most competent individuals often have gone through what we're discussing right now, but it's not talked about and it's not discussed. And that kind of data, experience, information is what people need to learn from other people's experiences, and for us to know what the barriers to progression are. Made for You is that we want to make sure that we are constantly talking about and identifying, through different ways, what are the barriers that stand in the way? How can we kind of get rid of some of those barriers and make sure that we're supporting people so they do have a voice and are able to have a smoother ride to a certain extent. But, we're not going to take away the good parts, right? The good parts is you need to fall a few times
This
and
is the
learn
good
how to
part.
get
This
back
is
up
the
again.
good part.
This
Yes.
is the good part,
Yeah,
exactly.
this is the easiest part.
Right. What does it mean
Oof.
to fall? What does it mean to get up? But sometimes when we fall, it is through those falls that you just want to look up and say, hey, is there someone to give me a hand? Is there someone? I'm not saying for you to do the falling for me, but I'm just saying, maybe you can sit with me and be a thinking partner about why I fell. maybe we
Mm.
could discuss together, what were the reasons I fell. What are some of the things we could talk about together to prevent falling again in the future, perhaps? What are
Yeah.
some tools or resources I need to make sure that I fall better? Maybe I need a helmet. Maybe I need some knee pads. Maybe
A
I need
cushion.
some wings.
A
Yeah,
cushion.
a
A
cushion, a
cushion.
cushion. Yeah, or made for you wants to even go a little bit further and say, we want to give you wings, so
Ah,
you don't have to run and fall. Maybe you can fly, and maybe that's what
exactly.
your purpose is. You're keeping your feet on the ground, but perhaps we can fly in,
Yes, that's
with those.
so well said. Honestly, it was so so beautifully said. Also, maybe let's talk about a little bit about why we are six co-founders and who the individuals are, because you say it in such a beautiful way. So maybe for our audience to know why we gathered and who we are, like who they are, because we and you are talking, but then maybe talk a little bit about the rest of the team and why we gathered together, maybe.
Yeah, I
When
think, these people are individuals that you knew separately, and had worked with them in different capacities, or you were friends with them, and so you were aware of their work. And I think
yeah,
one of the biggest strengths of founders is to be able to have that eye, on who do I need in my team? What are the gaps in skills that I need to fill to make sure that we achieve the goals and aspirations that we have set. So I think it started with you saying, yeah, I think that, there's in the first instance, I need these people. Then as we go on to the second and third stage, you brought in some of the others within our team. So first of all, it was about scouting the right talent. Then
yeah,
second of all, it was about also focusing on people who are similar in their values. We might come from very different backgrounds, and we all have the skill set, whether it's marketing, entrepreneurship, business development, partnerships, tech, looking at, client relations, and my area of, knowledge development and skill building, leadership and psychology, and so on. We come from very different backgrounds, but our values are very similar, which means
exactly.
we want to make a difference. Paria, you've heard me say this before. I start most of my speeches with a Native American expression that says, we don't inherit the world from our ancestors. We
Mm,
borrow it from our children. And each and every single one of the co-founders here is cognizant of the fact that we're not going to be here forever. But while we are, what is our legacy? What are we doing waking up every
exactly.
day? What is our passion and purpose to try and model the way for others? And look, all our soul sisters on this team, I know, have that same purpose, that let's make
Yeah.
it better for our girls that are coming afterwards. What do you think? What was some of the other reasons why we're together?
Yeah, I think to be honest with you, you said it in such a beautiful way when I saw and I individually picked each and every one of you, and I knew how much you would be like fitting perfectly within what the vision was. And you said it once, and this always sits with me, that you said like each and every one of us have something special and unique within us. And you actually were the one that told me that I'm the catalyst. You were the one that told me that, you know what, Paria, focus on what you're good at. Don't be afraid of things that you think that you need to become better, but then because you've been forced that as a founder of from my previous startups, that I needed to know everything. But that was something that even I learned throughout this journey, that, you know what, let's focus on what you're good at, and then leave the rest to the rest of the team players to for them to be able to also do what they are good at. And that's how I saw it, and that's why I'm so so comfortable about how we are moving everything forward. And this has been a topic that many people have asked me, how can you choose the right partner or co-founder? Or and it's something that, like, for me, I think it's, you feel it first of all, but then second of all, if you know if you know what they are good at and how they are uh, coping with in different way. But that's was something as well, if you can go back to it. And I remember in the beginning of the days that we all gathered together, you put us through those tests. Let's talk about those tests that we each and every one of
Yeah,
us went through. And
yeah,
it was a proper university for even just us as six people to be together. It was not just like, yes, just come on board and let's do this. We went through several stages of knowing and understanding why we are good together as well, right? So
absolutely. And you know, my entire sort of focus in the last couple of years has been living a life by design, not by default. If anyone thinks that, you know, let's just leave it to accident and default, let's flow with it. Sometimes it works, maybe, but we don't have in today's world, we don't have the time or the scope to kind of wing it and see what happens, right? We all have
exactly.
other jobs and we're incredibly busy and we're incredibly invested in doing what we do outside of Made for You, but also invested in Made for You. And you said something, you said, you know, this kind of perfect combination. In many ways, yes, but look, we're all about being transparent and vulnerable and telling the truth. Is it always perfect? Of course not. Do we have the most heated arguments and debates about everything?
And I love
Yes,
those
we
ones. I love
do.
those ones because always
Yeah,
amazing things comes out of it, right?
100%. You know, and do we have different opinions about the direction of where we should go, how we should pivot? Should we pivot, not pivot? How do we redesign, reset? All kinds of things. And boy, are we hot and bothered sometimes within those conversations. But here's the difference. In the original stages where we did the contracting between each other, and I'm not talking about the contract, the business contract, I'm
Yeah.
talking about the psychological contracting of what it means for co-founders to work together. We came up with a manual of success for each of us. We
Yeah.
talked about what are my triggers? What are my emotional allergies? If we have conflict, how are we going to surface that conflict? How are we going to deal with that conflict? What does it mean when I feel sidelined or ignored or marginalized? What does it mean where we're in a meeting and I feel nobody's giving me a chance to talk and we don't have conversational equity? How do we surface why aren't my ideas being implemented? How come it's always this co-founder's ideas that is being implemented? And so we agreed never to store any of that, but to speak it. Because remember, if you're not speaking it, you're storing it. And when you
Yeah.
store it, you don't have a, you know, this is not a storage room.
Yeah.
It's going to pile
Exactly.
up and eventually it's going to explode like a volcano. And we don't want that to happen. So for those of you listening, speak it, don't store it. And if you have an issue with, you know, X person, if you go and talk to somebody else about it, you're gossiping. Go and
Yeah.
speak to the source. Go and speak to that person and say, hey, what's going on with this and how can we solve it? So we do have those, you know, very rich and meaningful conversations. But the difference with us is 5 minutes after the sweating and the tearing and the, you know, getting heated up, we say, hey, let's go grab a coffee. You want to have lunch?
Exactly.
You don't carry it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like Teflon. We let it slip off and we continue doing what we're doing. Those discussions don't define us.
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the things, one of the one part of Made for You is all about that. That's what we are also giving opportunities with your knowledge to help other co-founders to match better or even find their own match throughout our platform as well. So that's one of the things that we actually are quite excited about, that we are here to do this and help and
Yes,
and tell
super
them, look at us, we if we manage to do that, you can do it.
exactly.
Right.
And it's we're going what now? This is we're entering our third year, right? Of building, working.
We've been
Second.
2 years of building, and then last November we actually launched it, but we launched it just for our platinum members, and we haven't actually opened the door properly for everyone. But
Yes,
and now we are starting to do that. And that's why
ex-
we started with this first intro podcast that of how we're going to do things moving forward. And we are going to bring members. We're going to bring our platinum members here. You're going to have amazing discussions and hot topics with each and every one of them. And also within even our own group, right? So it's going to be
Exactly.
exciting.
So we have Jamana, we have Samira, we have Fiona, we've got Anna and Paria and myself. And within through this podcast, hopefully you'll be able to hear from them as well. And we'll be covering really interesting topics and hearing about these sort of whispers of wisdom, we called it, right? So we have an event already that's been happening for a while, and those are webinars that happen. And the reason we called it Whispers of Wisdom is because we want to hear from everything that's happening from boardrooms to bedrooms and in between, all the way in between. So tune in, all the
We
juicy
love
stuff.
that.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to have some interviews here with the podcast with key members of our different societies, prominent women who have excelled and achieved great things in their own industries. But we're also going to have times in which the team or some members of the team are going to be sitting together and discussing different matters, you know. And I think that, again, we need something specific like this for people to tune in. And we're going to ask our members and the wider audience, what are the topics you're hungry for? Is it looking at bullying at work? Is it confidence? Is it leadership? What aspect of it, leadership, that you want us to unpack? And we are ready to get that ball rolling and for us to really have an interactive, engaging podcast launched very soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sam, for taking the time all the way from London to Dubai. And this is going to be incredible. And I'm super excited myself. And just telling our audience, stay tuned for much more to come. This is just the
Yes,
beginning, right?
absolutely, Paria. No, thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
starting this off for us. And I think it's a great initiative, and there's a lot to look forward to. So take care,
Thank
and I'll
you.
speak to you
Thank
soon.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.